Welcome back to another episode of Behind the Lava Lava, the podcast that takes you behind the scenes of the vibrant people and cultures of the Pacific Islands. I'm your host, Michael Tan, and joining me today is my co-host, Milford Tiafala. Before we get started, a quick reminder to our listeners to follow, subscribe, and leave a review if you enjoy the show. Today's episode is brought to you by Matai, a luxury timepiece brand that embodies the essence of the Pacific Islands. Now let's jump straight into it. Today, we will be talking with Josh Emfield, a veteran and real estate broker. We will be learning more about his background and experiences. Ta'alofa, Josh.
Tafalo. That's that right?
Yeah, ta'alofa lava. So, Josh, can you run us through where you're from, where you were born?
Yeah, I grew up in LA County, Hacienda Heights, Whittier were my hometowns out there, and pretty much grew up there my whole life. Moved to Utah about 15 years ago, and so I've been here since.
Let's go back a little bit. So, were you born and raised there?
Yeah, born and raised Southern California. Left California for 2 years on a religious mission out to Brazil. And then that's when I moved back to Utah. At the time, it was about a third or a fourth the cost of living. But now we're not that far off from California. So
what made you want to go into real estate?
So I've always had a passion for real estate. Even since I was a little kid, I loved the game Monopoly, still do. And really thought it was interesting how you could, purchase properties and have residual income from that. And so that always sparked my interest. And so I didn't jump right into real estate, though, as a career. It took me some time to get into it, although I always had interest in it. Family and my wife was a little concerned on working based off of commission. And so she told me to get a real job. And so I did that first.
So our platform highlights veterans, and obviously you are a veteran, served in the Air Force. Now you are in the Army National Guard. Was that before real estate, or real estate came after?
So actually, no, I joined the Utah Army National Guard was my first service. And I joined before I got into real estate, actually. And I joined as a 91 Delta or as a generator repairer because I was an electrician at the time. It kind of had a good segue. It was actually by accident because I was trying to go into the MI or military intelligence since I spoke Portuguese and Spanish. I was going to become an interrogator, but there's some mix up with my paperwork and I got this other position. But soon after I went back and transferred back to interrogations. But yeah, that was before I jumped into the real estate field.
How do you think your experience as a military veteran helped you go straight into real estate? Has any skills transferred over?
Actually, quite directly. For me, it did. Twofold. One is working in a field where you're dealing with such a big decision. Usually it's the biggest investment an individual will make in their entire life is purchasing or selling their property. And there's a lot of people out there that don't have as high of a character. And I've seen some concerns with that. So when I got in, I thought I would do things differently in the field, making sure that we were taking care of our clientele and taking on a common phrase in the military. We've got your six, or I've got your six. And so I've taken that slogan to heart in our operations, and everything we do comes back down to that is, do we have our clients six? Do we have their back? Or are we turning into your standard corporation that's focusing solely on commissions? And so it's service first is our focus.
Hey, finally somebody with the utilities experience, because I was an electrician in the Marine Corps, so I know about them generators, man. That's cool.
They never work.
Yeah. So just a side question. A lot of my real estate homies or people I know, they got into crypto. Are you big into crypto right now as a real estate
Actually,
person? It's like a lot of real estate people and crypto go together.
they do. I'm well aware. I'm not heavily into it. I got a few buddies who are. I've actually sold a property via crypto, which was quite
Oh,
interesting. Very complex. Looked into that, but I can't say I'm well versed. I pay attention to it, but it's not my jam.
all right. And that's all I got for the moment. Trying to follow the schedule. I don't want to jump anything right now, but that's cool, man.
Yeah,
Fellow electrician.
there we go.
So, Josh, you seem to be in a profession that's almost common, especially here. Well, it's at basically every state. How are you, basically competing against others, and what makes you unique, you and your team unique versus those who are in the same profession as you?
A few things. One is I'm a broker and actually train agents. I do a lot of education. I teach CE classes to various agents. And so when I take something on, I really want to learn like in depth, you know, into that field. And so I actually, as boring as it may sound, I actually find contracts and law very interesting. And so because I'm passionate about that, it just allows for me to get a more in-depth and breadth of understanding of the real estate market and marketing, how to get properties sold. But I say one of the biggest things is, as I mentioned about military services, I actually focus on hiring veterans and first responders. And the reason for that is because of that sense of character, loyalty, duty, respect, honor, all those things that they teach in the military is super important. Where if I have an agent who's a veteran or first responder, the one thing I know is that they will put their life on the line to help somebody else out. And so when I have that as a basis for the foundation of working with somebody, everything else will fall into place. You can always learn, you can always educate, but you can't always change character. And so the people I hire is mainly focused on high character, because if you can say, hey, that person would give their life up for me, that means they're going to do everything they can to make sure I'm properly represented. And they're looking out for, as a fiduciary, they're looking out for my best interest rather than their own personal gain.
Now you mentioned law. You were the director of operations in the U.S. House of Representatives here in Utah.
Mm-hmm.
What were some of your responsibilities, especially overseeing the military legislative affairs side?
Yeah, so it's kind of funny. I kind of fell into politics again by accident. I was kind of frustrated with the situation when I joined the military, where I didn't get my bonus and I was having some issues. And I saw a lot of other veterans not getting the benefits that they needed. And I remember watching TV. I was almost graduated with school, and I saw a congressman grilling the VA and trying to say, this isn't acceptable. And I just clicked in my head. I was like, I'm going to go work for that dude. I'm going to go and help these other veterans. A couple weeks later, I did an internship with Jason Chaffetz. They hired me a few weeks into that. And so I worked in the House of Representatives with him for about 4.5 years. And then his predecessor, John Curtis, I helped him start up his office and ran as the director of operations and deputy director for those two congressmen. And I did oversee some military and legislative affairs. And so that was helping veterans who were having issues with the VA or with the respective branch of service. I remember like one guy, he got demoted improperly. And so I got involved and made sure that everybody got the proper representation that they should be. And although it was far in between and few things that did occur, sometimes there was misuse of power and position. And so we helped make sure those veterans were well and properly cared for. So I did that for about 6 years, working for the U.S. House of Representatives. And mostly it was here locally, but I would travel to D.C. and work on some prerogatives and some legislative affairs in that as well. And so the thing that's helped me out was understanding where people can go for help and making a lot of connections, especially for veterans wanting to buy homes. Because if they had issues with their benefits, I knew people I could reach out to make sure we could get that resolved quickly. When I worked in Congress, though, I did get to know a lot of people and different types of personalities. There are a lot of narcissists in politics, believe it or not. And I did learn quite a bit in reading people. Being an interrogator in the Army, they teach you a lot of body language, communication skills, ways to question people. And I learned quite a bit from both military service and politics. And that's come into play also in real estate, where when we're trying to sell someone's property, everyone's trying to grab information and try to get the best deal. And so it's allowed for me to protect my clients and also teach agents on how to better negotiate and to recognize their body when they're, in communications with other individuals. So that way they can, garner information, elicit information, and then come up on top on closing a deal.
Today's episode is brought to you by Nuttin' But Grinds, your go-to Hawaiian food truck in Utah. Are you in the mood for some island flavor? Nuttin' But Grinds has you covered. Their menu features mouth-watering dishes like the furikake mochiko chicken, crispy Korean fried chicken, and flavorful mochisadas. Don't forget to try their musubi bomb, succulent pork belly, and fresh poke. Every dish is a celebration of Hawaiian cuisine and culture. So next time you're in Utah, make sure to stop by Nuttin' But Grinds. Experience the true taste of Hawaii right here in the heart of Utah. Nuttin' But Grinds. Aloha on a plate.
Are you planning on going back into politics?
I don't have any plans to go back into politics right now. I got young kids at home and they're plenty busy, and honestly they take priority. Family life. Politics, it's a busy industry. You go to galas, you're out meeting and greeting people, working in the political field. Everything was always an emergency, and there's always urgent. So although I don't have interest as of yet, it may change in the future, but it would have to be when my kids are older and out, and I'd have to be pretty adamant about something that's going on and just wanting to make a difference at that point.
Good, because I'm going to ask a follow-up question. It's up to you if you want to answer it, but have you come across, because you mentioned the misuse of power, right? Have you come across any shady dealings or, things like bribes or just whatever information you want to release?
Yeah, so shady, that's a broad term. I've never seen anyone get bribed, personally. I haven't, but when you're talking about shady, I've seen a lot of people who are looking for their own interest, self-interest, right? I think now this is like a major issue with politics. We've kind of glamorized politics and made it sexy, right? And so a lot of people who go into politics are looking for that power and that sense of authority to use for their own benefit. And so what I've seen is we've created this monster where we've made something exciting and power, and that draws the wrong crowd. That doesn't draw people who want to look out for the best interest and do service. It draws the people who want to use that for their next step and stay in politics long term, because it gets financial gain. As you can see, there's all these apps that show people, and crypto too, follow them on their investments. If you follow any of the Congress, men and women that are investing, you are going to turn out better than what the computer algorithms would be able to help you out with. So there's something pretty telling about that, where they're unwilling to prevent insider trading. People who sit on committees are allowed to trade in those same sectors, which makes absolutely no sense. But yet we'll send people to prison who are civilians and for doing the same thing. And so you might be able to tell I have got a little bit of distaste with some of the ethics I see or unethical stances in politics. But what I would say is we need to make politics boring again so we get the right people back into politics who really want to serve and give their best interest, which would be to the American people, not themselves.
Yeah, I tell my friends who are going into politics, once you go into politics and you run for an office, I no longer know you, because I know that you will become a totally different individual once you go into that profession. And yeah, that's just me.
The previous Senator Hatch said, "No one leaves Congress a better person." And I'll tell you, even though like I struggled with some of the stuff, it's there. Whether it's human nature, right? To have that presence of people, showing you and giving you opportunities, and you're rubbing shoulders, and it's, I scratch your back, you scratch mine. It is not. It should be short term, because human psyche, it's going to affect you, and that's why I think, we're talking about politics, but term limits. I'm actually in favor of term limits. They need to stay in long enough so they can actually get something done, but not too long where now they're corrupted.
So Josh, let's talk about your team. You hire veterans and first responder. Can you tell us
Right.
why you do that?
Yeah, I mentioned it briefly at the beginning, how there's in any industry that, I'd say is a successful industry, has a lot of opportunity, you're going to get a lot of people who will take advantage of that industry. And so I've seen it, I've experienced it. A lot of people have, where they felt like they weren't properly represented by their real estate agent or by their lender or, anything like that. And this really goes into any industry. I can't really pin it on one, but because it was an industry I was passionate about, I really wanted to see a shift. And so when I hire the veterans, really it comes down to is, where does their character lie? If they're willing to lay down their life for their comrades and their, the other patrons of the country, are they willing to, take advantage of them? A lot less likely. And so really, like, I see everything as, if you get the right character in place, you can mold their education. You can teach them all the pieces of, hey, this is what it means to be, a real estate agent. This is how you look into contract law. This is, what is a deed of trust versus how do I do assumable loans or seller financing? All those things are things that you can learn and be taught. It's the character that it's very difficult to change someone's character. And so that's really the crux of what I've put into place. And when you've got a group of individuals who work together and you have each other's backs, like our slogan is, we've got your six. And, if we support each other, I love the phrase of rising tides raises all ships. So everyone benefits when everyone works together. And there's no better way to do that than have a cohesive team that knows how to work with each other and not be selfish, but selfless.
Now I go to a lot of networking events, and once in a while you come across some veterans, right? And then, from life experience that we built up for the years, we're able to identify people who seem shady and those who are authentic. And recently I've been coming across a lot of our mainly brothers or veterans who seem iffy. So what are some challenges that you've come across in your profession? Some of the biggest challenge that you've come across.
As in, when you're saying working with veterans per se, like how to distinguish?
Just overall in your career as a real estate broker.
Yeah, I think this is a good question, because there's the concept of everyone's good naturally and they learn to be bad, or are they naturally bad and learn to be good? And I kind of go on the side of things are learned. So people are naturally good. And so I give them the benefit of the doubt. So I'd start off with trust, but trust has to be earned and re-earned. And so although I go into conversations and when I meet with people, I start off with, automatically, trusting, trust but verify, continually, take what they say and then double check it. I worked with an individual and he actually was getting involved in the veteran community. And I was trusting, but it's like I wanted to believe that his heart was in the right place. And there's a couple of mix-ups and mishaps, and I was like, okay, I'm going to give him a second chance here. But then there was another thing, and I just got to the point where I just said, I know the answer here, but I was trying to give that second chance in place. But in all reality, and I teach this in some of my body language classes, is that we can perceive something's off, right? This difficulty of labeling what exactly that means. And so we break this down into there's a difference between indicators and clusters, right? An indicator is one thing that seems a little bit off. For instance, my wife will come to me and be like, oh, hey, how was your day? I'm like, it was great. And I'll smile, but it wasn't like a real smile, So she can tell something's up. But then if I start doing other stuff, that's one indicator. But if I do multiple things, it's a cluster. And so when you're talking with people and something seems off, it's like, well, they're talking to me a little funny. The vocabulary is weird. And then the way that their eye movement is off. And, now they're kind of like avoiding something I'm talking about. Now you're seeing it's a cluster from a conversation. And so it's no longer, well, that's weird. It's more like this person's off. That's your mind telling you you can't trust this person. Now, we have trouble understanding what exactly all those things are. And you may not be paying attention to, are they looking down and left or up and right, all those things, but you're saying, I recognize something is off. And roughly 65 to 75% of our communication is body language. And so we are very perceptive, creatures. And so going back to that, Michael, your question, that was a long, diatribe, but your question was, how do you, work with that? Well, the one thing is you got to be more in touch with people in a personal, in-person atmosphere, because we've moved everything to be social and on the phone and through text messages, and you're creating a huge amount of miscommunication based off of a small portion of what we use for our communication. Roughly 30% is everything we're doing, and we're leaving off roughly 70% of our communication because we're not in person. You can be able to tell if someone's being forthright if you're in person with them pretty quickly. So going back to that, I like to meet with people. I like to meet with my clients. I like to meet with potential buyers, sellers, agents. So that way I can be able to tell for sure, is this person authentic and sincere, or are they going to take advantage and be dishonest?
So when I first came to the U.S., one thing that I didn't realize as a Samoan or Pacific Islander is that when we were growing up, we were taught not to look up at people or look at them straight in the eyes. So that's one of our tics that I don't know if you notice about us Pacific Islanders. When we talk, we kind of look to the side instead of looking straight at you. Did you notice that before?
Yeah, actually. And you have to bring that into conversation, is understanding your audience, your cultures, right? Every culture is slightly different. And this is actually one of our trainings too. We talk about distance, space, right? Different cultures feel more comfortable being closer or further apart. And then eye contact is one of them. And in some countries, you can stare at them directly. But if you stare at someone for too long, you're going to feel like this person's after me. I don't feel comfortable. They're going to attack me, right? That's absolutely true. And so really in conversations with people, there's culture that you have to take into account. There's also neurological deficiencies or, things like autism or ADD, where autistic people don't like to look people in the eye as well. And some people, if there's tapping, it could show that they're nervous. It could show that they have ADD and they don't like to sit still. And so those are all just indicators. So again, when people try to make basis off of one or two things that are going on, they're going to misdirect their understanding of a relationship or that conversation. It's when you tie multiple of those indicators together. So maybe you're looking down, Michael, because you're trying to show respect, right, from your heritage, right? So that's one indicator. I might think, well, maybe he's timid. But then I see that you're obviously not, because you got a bunch of podcasts and you're talking to people. So now I can kind of understand the culture and I know where you're from. So those are all parts of those indicators to better understand that relationship rather than focusing on one or two. I've seen people say this all the time. If you fold your arms, that means they're closed off and they don't want to talk to you or they're upset. Well, I'm always cold. So I'm always folding my arms because I need more body fat. And I live in Utah and it's always freezing in the wintertime. So, those certain things, but being aware, like you are, being aware will help you understand, like, oh, maybe I'm looking down and maybe they're getting the wrong, signal. So now you can, correct that and show it in other manners to show that you are confident and capable like you are.
Now, are there any programs or any opportunities that you want to announce? Or especially if you have any for you in your real estate?
Yeah, so we actually do something special. We focus about 60 to 7% of our clientele are veterans or first responders. And when we work with a veteran first responder and we're helping them purchase a home, we actually won't make a commission on the sale of their home. So we do it at no cost. So they decide what they want to get done on their home. But we do all the heavy lifting, hard work. We're very good at advertising. We know how to do video content. We create websites, all that stuff. But it's a way of us saying thank you and giving back to the veteran community. And so essentially, they're selling their house for free when they purchase a home with us.
How about for buying? Do you offer any incentives for buying?
Yeah, we have a fun thing when they purchase the home. Just to show our support for patriots is that we actually will install a flagpole, a large flagpole, and then we purchase a flag that's been flown over the U.S. Capitol, and we install that for them at, just as a home welcoming gift. So, and then as you may know, or those who don't know, when they work with us as an agent, we negotiate the sellers to pay us a commission. So again, they still benefit. They get full representation, and it's far better than going in alone and not knowing what you're doing. And we're good at negotiating. So all of our clients are giving us 5-star reviews. So that's what we stick to.
Today's episode is brought to you by Top Gun Home Inspection, a leading home inspection company in Utah. When it comes to home inspections, details matter. That's why Top Gun Home Inspection is committed to providing thorough and meticulous services. From the foundation to the roof, their experienced inspectors leave no stone unturned. They offer a range of services, ensuring that every aspect of your home is safe and up to standard. So, whether you're buying a new home or just want to keep your current one in top shape, trust Top Gun Home Inspection. Remember, a detailed home inspection today can save you from costly repairs tomorrow. Top Gun Home Inspection, where your home's health is our top priority.
Oh, that's amazing. Now, can you tell us about some community outreach, some organizations that you're involved with?
Yeah, so I do volunteer as much as I can. I've worked with Vet Cave, VBRC, a Veteran Business Resource Center. I volunteer with them, help collaborate with them on some of the events that they're doing. I do reach out to a lot of business owners to see how we can help highlight their business as well. As we put together a successful business, we try to help them understand how to set up your Google account or how to do some marketing, or even just sharing their company on our page, just something like that. I also worked with Heroes Haven, Continued Mission. I've done a couple of things with them, Flagpoles for a Cause. I'm also on the board for Warrior Rising. It's a large organization nationwide that helps veterans start their businesses. And so sometimes I get pretty busy. but it's for a good cause, and I really do enjoy helping veterans, make that next step.
So let's say, or actually, for all the people out there looking to purchase a home or sell a home right now, do some kind of business, and they're looking for a real estate broker, why should they choose your company over, some of the competitors within Utah?
Yeah, that's a good question. So what sets us apart? I spent thousands of dollars on listings is one thing. And we don't just get the house put on the MLS. We build a separate CRM for it. We have QR codes, text for more details. We get professional photography, virtual tours. We actually create commercials too for the listings, depending on what price point that property is. And these aren't just like a walkthrough of the property. Like some of them are pretty corny. Like we did, like one veteran we sold a house for. He lived near Hill Air Force Base in Layton, and we said, "All right, we're gonna just blow this out of the water." We did a Top Gun theme, and we wore outfits and stuff, and threw in some scenes from Top Gun, and just made it super corny and interesting. So people were getting engaged on a personal level. But while doing that, we were highlighting the community. A lot of agents, which I still don't understand why they haven't grasped onto this, they focus on just the house. That's like half of the work. We focus on the community because they're going to imagine, what am I going to do here? How do I imagine my family? So we help them see, my kids will be doing this sport, or my husband will be doing this activity at the rec center, and I'll go to the near Costco or Target. And so you have to create that story. So that's what we do. We create the story so people will fall in love with the whole experience of that house and the future memories that they're going to make. And so we really bring in a lot of the human psyche and negotiations into our marketing pieces there. But from that one listing, we had tons of people show interest, tons of people at the open house. I think it was like 34 different people come to the open house. And we timed it just right where you had the F-35s flying right over the house. And so we kind of made it like an event type thing. And so we're very creative, think outside the box. And when it comes down to it, when it goes back to service, they're going to get an answer when they call us and text us. We're not going to be like, I'm going to avoid that call. That's been our number one, thank you that we get from people. Like, you're so responsive was their, like the thing that they say. They say, you're responsive and I trusted what you said. So what sets us apart is we'll go above and beyond. And I can guarantee that what we do for a listing, nobody else does on their listings. So.
Hey, you got me sold. I almost want to just go out and buy a house right now.
But that's another point too. Like, I do specialize in assumption loans too. This is a complicated loan where if you're a veteran and you want to buy a house and that person has a VA loan on it, you can actually assume their low interest rate. So instead of having a 6%, or 7% on the current rates, you might be able to, knock it out of the park with a high 2 or low 3% interest rate. And so I know the legal aspects of that. I've worked with title companies and everything in making that happen. And so when a problem arises, I find, my thing is, what's the solution, not an excuse. And so there's a problem, we're going to find a way over or through that problem rather than say, hey, sorry, can't get through it. And so, yeah, we're solution oriented.
Now, Josh, we like to ask our guests this question, but do you have any questions for us?
Yeah, I'd love to understand what got you interested in doing the podcast.
So, Milford and I are the original founders of the podcast. I started when I pitched the ideas to my group of friends. We were playing Call of Duty. I wanted to kind of talk stories and talk topics that basically covered men's mental health, topics that were considered taboo in the Samoan culture, and the fatherhood and stuff like that. Mainly because when we were playing Call of Duty, sometimes during the game or after the game, we would start talking, having deep conversations, and I wanted to have that same conversation, but on a public platform to share to people, because a lot of people can relate to what we're going through. It's relatable because there's veterans out there, there's men out there who are fathers, there are even Pacific Islanders, but it doesn't matter your background, but it's relatable because we are just your regular Joes, and I wanted to kind of bring that out. It started off just having normal conversations, and we kind of, I would say, elevate, and it turned into something, I would say, bigger, because I never thought that 2 years ago, starting it, we would become a way bigger platform, doing, dinners and having celebrity guests and, all these things, and even forming a nonprofit. I never thought that we would be doing that. So what started out for me personally to help me, because of instead of doing counseling with a VA, this helped me more as a therapy. So it was mainly for my mental health, but everyone has their own reasons, and the guys supported what I wanted to start. So that wasn't my reason. So what about you, T?
It's pretty much the same thing he said. We're a bunch of funny dudes, and I just want to, keep hanging with the brothers. And it's always good to stay in touch, even though we can not speak for a while and then see each other and act like nothing, there was no time in between. But, and that was mainly it, just to keep in touch with the close ones.
I got to say, I appreciate what you guys are doing, because I think it's, it could be, U.S. culture, but in lots of cultures, the men don't like to talk as much until they're asked, right? And when you're asking them questions, it gives them the opportunity to open up. And it's crazy what you think. We all go through trials and struggles, but we're all stoic, in our faces, and we act as if nothing's affecting us. But inside we've all got our struggles and our trials, and just like you said, Michael, being able to talk about that just gives somebody else a form of connection, and it does alleviate some of the stresses you feel. It's not just that your trials are overcome, but it's like, hey, I'm not in this alone. It's like going back to your military service, embrace the suck. We're all laughing about, the drill sergeants and how they, until they kicked our butts, or, oh man, this is so bad. And these MREs, 6 days straight, whatever it might be. But when you have somebody else to go through a trial together, it changes it. And so I appreciate what you guys are doing, and I think you guys are definitely making an impact.
Now, I want to express our gratitude and appreciation to you, Josh, for joining us today. I know you are a very busy individual with the amount of things that you are doing out in our community, and we want to thank you for your dedication in supporting our brothers and sisters, the veterans out there. Do you have any final thoughts or shout outs for today?
I think I'll just end on this. Is just like, guys and gals, like, if you're going through a struggle, there's people who understand, and you're not alone. And we're in this together. Don't ever hesitate. Reach out to Michael, me, or Milford, anybody that's within your reach. Really, people are open to listen, and you'd be surprised to understand how much more willing they are to connect with you and share similar struggles. And so thanks again, Michael and Milford, for having me on. And hopefully, anything I've contributed helps your audience. But thanks again for all that you guys do.
Man, so I love the philosophy and what you're about. Like, and coming from you, like, I really believe it. You can hear some of these key words and terms and phrases from people, but like I don't know if you're really about that. But from you, like, you've been speaking on authenticity. I feel it through the computer screen.
I appreciate that, bro.
Yeah. So, but I thank you for coming on, and it's awesome that you live that philosophy, and it is so obvious, and your attention to detail when asked about what sets you apart. And there's no doubt that sets you apart, because I know a lot of people within this industry. I don't do business, but I know a lot of them, and I know how the character, like you spoke on, I mean, even though they may be good people, when it comes to clientele, they're not attacking it in the same way, whether it's attitude or passion or, compassion for that. So, but it's awesome. It was great to just listen and hear you speak, because like I said, I'm just hearing truth right now. And, I really have any questions, because any questions that would pop up were pretty much already answered. So it's awesome. Great to know you. Great to meet you.
Now, Josh, before we close, where can people find you and what's your contact?
Yeah, they can just look up Josh Emfield. They'll see it anywhere on Google, or the Emfield team. And you can also look up Jump Into a Better Home. It's one of my fun things. I love playing basketball. I like dunking, and jumping's, my catchphrase. So that's the one caveat. You buy or sell a house with us, I'm going to make you take a jumping picture. That's our go-to. So, so if you don't want to jump, don't give me a call. So,
Now, thank you for chopping it up with us, Josh, and thank you to our listeners. We really appreciate you for tuning in to this episode of Behind the Lava Lava. I hope you enjoyed our conversation. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to follow, drop a comment, leave a review. This is Michael Tan and the team signing off. Tofa Soifua.
Working on my interests, it's who I am. I'm trying to make these digits look like EINs. When the help ain't free, you all help me. Salute to folks who turn their names to LLCs. The wealth is in itself to help a non-profit. To be better women or better men, whether business by veterans or common folks with a dream. We're all born with the same strength. We tread waters that were untouched. Let's be on the same wavelength. Behind the lava, front of our eyes. Let our legacy live off it when we're up in the sky. All signs point to us to help someone make a difference. With God as my witness, cause talk business.